Welcome to my new studio. I finally assembled everything and made it work, and it looks pretty exciting. I hope you like it. I want to talk today about quite a boring topic, cloud and DNS. But first, some confession to make. I used to run my own DNS servers on real metal, and I loved it. Zone updates between primary and secondary looked pretty magical. And there were all these requests flowing on port 53 back and forth. It was a long time ago. I have a local DNS server for home network and it's somewhere in the basement managed by a firewall appliance. I do most things in the cloud, but DNS is still a big part of it. What I learned, DNS is a never-ending story. There will be dragons, but I hope you will learn something new and even going to save some dollars. Almost 15 years ago, AWS realized DNS was a heavy lifting. They introduced in 2011 Route 53 service. Over the years, they added more and more features, integrated it well with all other AWS ecosystem, including IAM for access management. Route 53 has a super fine-grained permissions to manage access for updating records and configuring zones. We'll talk about it later. You can even buy a domain with API call. How cool is that? But it's not even the best part. I like API for DNS management. I even like more CDK to abstract resources for Route 53. CDK completely removes physical layout of Route 53 from developer's view. I usually import zone by the domain name, and then it works with all other constructs. If I create CloudFront distribution, it automatically passes its name to ELB or ILB load balancer. I don't have to think about it, or I never think about SSL certificate validation with DNS. It just works. All other AWS services like a simple email service, even Cognita, they all integrate well with Route 53. I barely could notice Route 53, but when I start developing more actively and added more accounts, Route 53 bill started to increase. A lot actually. If you ever felt like DNS got out of control in your AWS accounts, you're not alone. What I assumed that Route 53 was just a wrapper around DNS management, and the CDK completely abstracted it. However, with active app development, I started to see the problem. It's a way how AWS recommends to use Route 53, which brings a lot of DNS legacy. AWS tells you to delegate subdomains between accounts for better control. To delegate a subdomain, users have to create a zone, get the name servers, and somehow pass it to the zone that controls top-level domain. People complained, so AWS added a CDK construct to create this delegation. With metal servers, it was fun to watch, but with the cloud, now you end up with a dozen resources to just pass name servers around. Another one, AWS automatically creates a zone for each domain that you register, which sounds very convenient, but that zone just sits there completely unmanaged and becomes a burden in the future. All this adds friction from the DNS legacy. More delegation, more zones, more management, and this is how Route 53 became a large chunk of my bill. Moving off Metal DNS was the right call at the right time. Now I needed to find a way to avoid DNS traps with the legacy DNS practices. I run everything I develop in serverless. The beauty of serverless is that you can add any resources, more applications, more accounts, and they can just sit there. You don't have to worry about your AWS billing. The bill will increase only if there is workloads that consume those new resources. With Route 53 it's different. Every new zone adds a permanent monthly charge, no matter if app is using it or not. In 2025 I made a resolution, no pun intended, to solve this DNS problem once and for all. I developed a new CDK construct I called Route Master. The construct follows a very simple idea. Manage DNS in the cloud using cloud services, not the other way around where you manage your cloud services using legacy DNS methods. Route Master instead of zone delegation using IAM delegation to allow those who need access to specific domains to make changes. It delegates permissions based on organizational units. To see details how it's set up and works, check the link I left in the description section. To conclude, DNS can be a good indicator how well you run things in the cloud. It can become difficult and expensive to work with if you let the legacy dictate how to set it up in the cloud. However, with good cloud practices, you can enjoy DNS again. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.